Hello to all my YouTube thumpers out there. YouTube, YouTube. Yeah, it doesn't really work, does it? It's a bit of a stretch, that one. Anyway, today I've got something a little bit special and different for you guys here on YouTube, specifically for you guys here on YouTube. What I want to do in the future is do a series of video lessons just for you guys where you get to suggest your favourite songs, beats, fills and solos. So I've started the ball rolling with this mini video drum lesson today, but if you've got your own song suggestions, or it might just be a famous beat or fill or solo from a song, then go below, type it in the suggestion box, in the comments box below, so we can get it all compiled together, all your suggestions and song suggestions. And if you see another suggestion from someone else, then give it a thumbs up, and the song suggestions that get the most thumbs up or the most suggestions written, I'll do a free video transcription and video drum lesson for you guys in the future. I want to sort of make this a regular thing here on YouTube. So again, if you've got your own suggestions, please write them in the comments below, give the ones you like a thumbs up, and then hopefully we'll have a definitive winner. Otherwise, I'll just choose one or two that I like as well. And like I said, I want to make this a regular thing, so please do come along and write in your comments. What I've got for you today is my transcription. A two-page sort of mini drum chart, a cheat sheet if you like. This is a cool way of getting into a song where you don't have to learn every single note, every single bar note for note, which is what I do over at my website, drumstheword.com, by the way, which is great. This is sort of a quick and easy way into the song where you can sort of take out the most prominent beats and fills from the song, some of the variations which we'll be going over, and then you can sort of just crack on with the song, and then when you're ready you can learn the other parts as well. But like I said, this is sort of a quick and easy route into it. So don't forget, you can download the free PDF from my website, 2 pages here. There's a link beneath this website, beneath this video. So go along to my website and make sure you have the PDF downloaded out in front of you, printed out in front of you, because it's certainly going to help you through this lesson. Okay, there's the intro out the way. The first bit is how the drums come in, how Chad comes in with the drums. So we've got like a 30-second guitar intro, and then Chad comes in. We've got the first section, I've written in brackets intro, it occurs at 33 seconds. The first bar, we come in with a cross stick and an open hi-hat on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is a cross stick there on beat 4. It's quite hard to hear, it's low in the mix. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the hi-hat closes, so it's open for the whole of beat 4, closes on beat 1, and we've got this cross stick pattern occurring on beats 1, 2, 3 and 4, with the hi-hat playing 8th notes over the top. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Underneath that, Chad is playing the bass drum on 1 and 3 ands. So we get this pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The first half of the bar is the same as the second half. So count ourselves in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1. Here's what that sounds like without a microphone on, so you can hear just the drums. So then we got the main groove. Before we go into the variations of the main groove, as well as what I think is the basic skeleton pattern of the whole song, we got the first bar here. I've got occurs at 50 seconds, verse 1. So just coming out of that intro, how we come out of the intro into the groove, we've got this cross stick pattern, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1. And what Chad does there, 4 and a 1, he drags into beat 1 there, the snare drum and hi-hat open on beat 4, so we're going to play beat 4 as a snare drum, not a cross stick, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then as the hi-hat's ringing out, you just drag in with the left hand, double left hand drag, 1. That's what a drag is, by the way, just 2 little left hand notes. And the way I feel it is it rolls into the next beat being beat 1 in this case, 1, 1. So I'm feeling where 1 starts and just anticipating it or leading into it with the left hand drag. I'm not really counting those drags. I'm not feeling it as the of beat 4. I'm sort of just feeling it, even though really it is on the of beat 4, but it could be considered triplets, or it could be considered some other things in between 30 seconds triplets. Don't worry too much about that. It's really what it sounds like is the most important thing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1. Or 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1. And you might also want to play 4 and a 1. You can keep time with yourself by playing 4 and a 1. But I noticed on the recording, Chad keeps it open for the whole of beat 4. He doesn't play the and a 4 on the hi-hat. But of course you can, it doesn't really matter. It will sound different, but it doesn't really matter. So then we get on to our main groove, and the skeleton rhythm is this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This is really the whole song, apart from the bridge later on near the end. You could play this all the way through. So you beginner drummers out there, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. That bass drum there being a little bit delayed on the and of beat 3, not beat 3. It's not quite in the middle. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. But of course what Chad does is he adds in those ghost notes and drags. So the main groove that occurs throughout the song, and we'll go on to some of the lesser played variations in a second, we add in 2 ghost notes on the of 2 and the E of 3. And just like classic ghost notes, like most ghost notes, they fall in between the hi-hats. They're sort of designed to fill out the space and fill out the sound. So there's no exception with this. We get 2 ghost notes. So starting from beat 2, 2 and 3, E and. And those ghost notes are written in bracket to show you they're played quietly and are ghost notes. That's what they are, quiet notes. 2 and 3, E and. So just falling in between the hi-hats there. 1, 2 and 3, E and 4 and a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4 and a 1. You can hear there I played 4 and a 1. But what Chad does there most of the time is he drags that or turns it into a little drag. 4 and a 1, 4 and a 1. So just like the intro, how we went from the intro into this main groove, it's the same idea. 4 and a 1. So the whole thing together, 1, 2 and 3, E and 4 and a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4 and a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4 and a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, 1, 2 and 3. And this is really it. This is basically the whole song, apart from a few variations and the bridge later on. Let's go on to those variations. The next line here, I've got 3 variations for you that occur. The first one is where we play exactly the same thing, but we get the open hi-hat here on beat 4. And Chad uses this effect every 4 or 8 bars. It's kind of like a MIDI, it's like a drum fill halfway through the verse. Rather than play something on the snare or toms, he just opens the hi-hat on beat 4 to show, here's beat 4, here's beat 8, bar 4, bar 8. Like I said, it's like halfway through the verse or quarter of the way through the verse. These sort of relishes that occur that sort of are drum fills. That's how I think of them anyway. So the hi-hat opens on beat 4, just like we had going from the intro into the main groove. So it's really the same thing. It is the same thing. 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, 1. There's our first variation. The next one is even simpler. We're just taking the drag at the end, and what Chad does is he doesn't always drag every single note. That would be a little bit repetitive. So he throws in a single ghost note instead. So the last drag on the of beat 4 this time is just a single ghost note. 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4, a 1, 2 and 3, E and 4 and a 1. So simple as that. The last one occurs, I think it's the last verse in the song, what Chad does here is he fills in all the spaces pretty much. No, not all the spaces, but what he does here specifically is he rolls the ghost notes around from the end of the bar to the beginning. You see what I mean when I play it around a few times. It starts, the main difference is we've got an extra ghost note on the E of beat 1. 1 E and 2. 1 E and. That's the only extra thing that's going on here. But when we go from the end of the bar back to the beginning, it rolls into it. So 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 and a 1 E and a 1 and a 1 E and a 1 E and. You can see it rolls into it. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 and a 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 and a 1 E and 2. I love that. That's really cool. It sounds great. So when you're practicing along with this, either with the song or without the song, try to take those 4 variations, the main groove and then the 3 variations I've shown you, and try to create a loop where you sort of play perhaps 2 of each or 4 of each. It doesn't really matter, but just improvise with playing each of them And they're really the main 4 drum beats you need to be able to play, the 4 variations. They're not that different to each other that you need to be able to play the whole song. So here's like a little jam where I play some examples of all 4 of those variations. Up to speed without a microphone on, so you can hear just the drums. So let me go on to the chorus. It occurs at 1 minute 18, and it's basically the same as the verse, but we're playing on a washy hi-hat, half open, and with less ghost notes. So that's how it starts. Chad keeps it nice and simple. We've still got the drag at the end of the bar though. It's basically this: 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1. So we're just playing on the open hi-hat really, or the half open hi-hat. That's the only difference. The first variation though occurs in the chorus 1, where it's the same as the what I just showed you, but we've got an extra drag occurring on the of 2. So some drummers might find this tricky, because in this example, I'll just play it for you first. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1. First half of the bar, we've got the drag on the of 2 going into beat 3, where there is no hi-hat. Where there is no bass drum. The bass drum is on the and of 3. The second variation with the standard stuff at the end of the bar is where we go from the of beat 4 into beat 1, where there is a bass drum. So you've got one drag going into an open hi-hat on its own, and then one drag going into a bass drum. And if you're completely new to this, then you might find that a little bit weird. You might feel you have to put a bass drum on beat 3. So resist that urge when you're practicing. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 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 1. That's fun to play. And then the last variation I've got for you is just a one-off time this occurs in the song, where Chad plays just a single ghost note on the of 2. It's not dragged. And then the significant part of this, which I found interesting, which is why I wanted to include it, was the little ander at the end he does. So it's definitely a left-hand tap. He's not playing ander because you hear the hi-hat come down with the ander. It's like 2 little ghost notes there that he plays like this. 1, 2, a 3 and 4 and a 1, 2, a 3 and 4 and a 1, 2, a 3 and 4 and a 1, 2, 3 and 4 and a 1, a 3 and 4 and a 1, 2, a 3 and 4 and a 1. That's just a one-off time example though. You can take that idea and you can put it elsewhere in the song. Like any of these examples, if you're improvising with yourself or with your band or just having fun with some grooves, then you can take out ideas and put them elsewhere. That's absolutely fine. So here's another little jam of those 3 ideas being played together, and sort of see if you can hear where each one is being played. Follow along with the PDF. Here we go. One more thing I want to say before we move on is what Chad does with his hi-hat foot. So you don't really hear it in the first chorus, but certainly in the second chorus later in the song, what Chad starts to do with his hi-hat foot is really interesting. He does this in other songs as well. It's also sort of one of his signature sort of licks, I guess, a bit like Roger Taylor from Queen with his distinctive hi-hat bark. Chad does something similar where he's sort of opening and closing the hi-hat on downbeats on the quarter notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and creating this effect. It's probably easier if I just show you what I mean. Listen out for it in the second chorus. I'm not making it sound like Chad at all because I'm not. Also, I'm using an electric hi-hat which isn't as sensitive as an acoustic hi-hat. I'm making it sound like where Chad is like where he's not fully closing the hi-hat every time. He's sort of only half closing it, which is really hard to do on this. but creating that sort of effect. But basically his hi-hat foot is going 1 and 2 and 3. See if you can listen out for it in the second chorus. It's kind of cool. It's a signature Chad Smith thing. Okay, so the next section I've written here occurs at 1 minute 39, in brackets, end of chorus 1. So it's a drum fill going into our next verse at the end of chorus 1. I just thought I'd include it because it's kind of cool. We get this 1 and 2, and then we move to the floor tom and high tom, just 2 toms, whatever toms you have. It doesn't have to be a floor, I'll give you just 2 floors. It doesn't really matter what 2 toms you choose. Make sure they're different pitch. And we get and 3 and 4, and 3 and 4. And Chad plays the bass drum on 3 and underneath that. And 3 and, just to give the 3 and more emphasis. And 3 and 4. And then the bar ends with a little Chad double left hand 16th notes, and not it's not the isn't dragged, it's and specifically 2 16th notes. So slowly the whole thing, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 1. Let's put it up to speed into our next verse. Oops. I can't remember if it goes into a crash in the next verse. It might just be straight to the hi-hat. So whatever a Chad does, you do that as well. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And also I noticed he lets the hi-hat ring out for the whole of the rest of the bar pretty much. You don't hear him close it. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And it closes on beat 1 of the next section. So here's what that sounds like. So moving on to the bridge, which occurs at 2 minute 48. The bridge is what I've called it. You could always think of it as a middle 8. It only occurs 1 time in the song, and it's a very distinctive section. Chad goes into it with the first bar I've notated, with 1 and 2 and 3. 3's the whole of beat 3 is open hi-hat. It washes out for the whole of the beat. 3 and then 4 and 1. 4 and 1 into our first bar of this tom groove. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1. So then we got a 2 bar, well, we actually got a 4 bar pattern, but it's really split up into 2 sections with some variations at the end of each of the 2 bars. So the first bar, or the second bar of the notation I've written here, the first bar of the 2 bar groove, or 4 bar groove, depending on how long you want to think of it as. Crash cymbal on beat 1, 1, and the key here is Chad is riding on the floor tom. It's very low in the mix, but it's there. He's riding on the floor tom. You don't have to come in straight away on the and of 1. The first time he plays it, he doesn't. He comes in on beat 2. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and. And what I've written on the notation are accents above the main notes you need to accent. Basically all the other notes apart from these ones being played down here are played loudly. There are some notes, as you'll see in a second, that are played loudly, but we'll just get onto that when they occur. But really what you want to be thinking about is just riding here on the floor tom and keeping it nice and low in the mix and not really accenting it until you have to. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And from beat 4, 4 and 1 and, going into the next bar there, 4 and 1 and. So we've gone from 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and all of a sudden the right hand then gets split up, broken up into just 8th notes between the 2 hands. Instead of da 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 da, it's da 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 da. So get ready for that change from this to this. You'll feel a difference there in movement. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Make sure that bass drum's there on 4. 4 and 1, and the bass drum there on 1. 4 1 is really where Chad's putting the bass drum. 4 1. 4 and 1 and then that sneaky snare drum there on the and of beat 1 of the second bar. 1 and then 2 more bass drums. 2 and with the floor tom. 2 and 3 and 3 and then 4 and. We get both toms together. Chad doesn't play the bass drum here, even though you might want to. He doesn't play the bass drum with those 2 tom stabs. 4 and. Let's put those 2 bars together. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. And you're naturally going to play the floor tom loud when you've got the other notes being played loud as well. So don't worry about having to keep this quiet. What I meant was when you're not accenting, make sure these are sort of out the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1. Then we got the next two bars. Starts the same. 1, 2. But this time notice how you do hear the floor tom, or you might not if you're not listening carefully, but you do hear it on the isolated drum track I found. 1 and 2, where Chad does move down to the floor tom for the and of 1. That kind of stuff isn't important though, no one's going to miss it. You could just play 1, 2 if you wanted to. 1 and 2, 3, and then 4 and 1 and. So the difference here is before we had 1 and going into the second bar, now we get two bass drums there, 1 and with the two floor toms, 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3 and the bass drum there on the and of 3, 1 and 2, 3 and then it ends the same way, 4 and, like that. So those next two bars, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and up to speed. So let's put the two bars or the 4 bars together, play them around a couple of times, and that's really this bridge. I think the 4 bars, I think it's 8 bars long, isn't it? Right, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. And let's play this up to speed for you now, around a couple of times. Here's what, including the little bar of groove or drum fill going into it. Here's what the whole thing, the whole notation section sounds like, played up to speed. And then finally coming out of that bridge, I thought it was a really cool little drum fill that Chad does that I really wanted to include. So the first bar is really stuff we've gone over already. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and. It's the and 1 and variation of the 2-bar groove. 4 and 1 and. But then what Chad does is he goes into 16th notes, 2E. We get 2 accented, 2E, but then importantly, and I think it is important because you hear it on the mix, it's definitely a Chad thing, he ghosts. He plays 2 16th notes on the snare, but the second one is quieter than beat 2. The E is quieter than beat 2. 2E, 2E, we get that effect. Loud, quiet, or normal, tap. 1 and 2E. And we'll play up to speed for in a second where we get the 16th note sounding correct with the 8th notes. 2E and it goes into 2 bass drums there. 2E and then 3 and 4 and 1, or 3 and 4 and, if we're playing all the 8th notes together at the same speed. Again, it makes sense when I play up to speed for you in a moment, or the whole thing. 3 and 4 and 1. So we get the first 4 with the toms. And notice on the mix that Chad doesn't play 4 and, he plays 4 and the and is just the bass drum on its own. You could play 4 and, it doesn't really matter. So the 2 bars together, 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4 and 1. And I just naturally want to flam, when I play as 2 toms together, I just want to flam them. I think Chad does naturally as well, but you could play them flat. Or flammed. Up to you. I like to flam them, he just gives it more power. I just love the sound and feel of it. So finally, here's what that sounds like played up to speed. So there you go. Hope you had fun with that. Please don't forget to write your own song suggestions below in the comments, to thumb up other suggestions that you like, and then I'm going to spend some time going over those suggestions and compiling a list and doing some songs just for you guys here on YouTube. So please make sure you don't miss out on that. And then also, don't forget to download the free PDF from my website. You can find a link beneath this video. And then while you're over there, you might also want to consider signing up to become an online member at drumstheword.com. And what that currently offers for $97 is a year subscription to my website from the day you sign up, and you gain access to almost 300 full video song lessons. Unlike this lesson where I sort of took out the best bits, in my full video song lessons I teach you a song from start to finish. Every single bar you get the full video song lesson plus the full transcribed PDF drum chart, and then as a thank you for signing up and gaining access to hundreds of famous songs, I give you hundreds more freebies, loads of videos and ebooks I've written over the years, containing hundreds more famous beats, fills and solos. And then over the year of your subscription, you also gain instant online access to all the new material I upload for my users, my online subscribers at drumstheword.com. So if you've got any questions, feel free to email me, rob@drumstheword.com, or come over to my Facebook page. Again, you'll find a link beneath this page. It's also another great place to make song suggestions, by the way. But if you're on YouTube specifically, make sure you go below for those comments, for those suggestions. And yeah, until next time, toodle pip, have fun with this, and happy drumming to you.